Good afternoon, people of the South. You are here once again with your host of The Human in Me and founder, Mpomo Swashe. Today, I just wanted to do an add-on to what I did on the previous episode, where I was talking about childhood programming in terms of the social aspect of things. But I wanted to add on to that, right? So before I go anywhere, I just want to make sure that I ask you this question. How often do you think about your own breathing? How often do you just sit down and think about your own breathing? I'm probably sure that you never thought about it until I asked the question. How often do you think about your own breathing? I don't think about my breathing also. It's just something that happens. I keep on inhaling, I keep on exhaling all throughout the day, all throughout the night. It never stops. I just keep on breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. It's the same thing as with your heartbeat, or should I say your heart rate? Okay, your heartbeat. It's the same thing with your heartbeat. The heart just keeps on beating. Whether it beats faster, whether it beats slow, it doesn't matter. The thing is that to a certain degree, there's something controlling that. There's something that dictates whether your heart is going to beat faster or it's going to beat smaller. It's going to, beat, the heartbeat is going to decrease or it's going to go high, right? So there's probably something that controls that. And if you did life science back in high school, you'll remember obviously that part of the brain that controls that is the medulla oblongata. At least I still remember that. Yeah, so part of the brain that controls that is the medulla oblongata. If you kill the medulla oblongata in the brain, the person is gonna stop regulating the heat in their body. The person is gonna stop breathing. The person is gonna, their heartbeat is gonna stop, and that person is going to die. So, with that knowledge, I wanna move on to something else that's related to this thing. So, your values and beliefs. We all have things that we believe in, and we all have values that guide us through life. And for some reason, or for the most important reason, is that none of us actually ever sat down to think about them. To think, okay, so this is what I'm going to believe in, and this is what I'm going to value. But for some reason, we find ourselves going through life being guided by those values and beliefs. Right. And part of the reason why I mentioned the first part about your heartbeat and your breathing and all that stuff was just me trying to make you realize that there are some certain things that happen outside of our conscious awareness that literally control certain things in our body, and we don't have any control over those things. They just happen. Right, so that was just me trying to humble you enough to realize that you are not so much in control of your own life after all, the same way that I am not in control of my life. So going back to values and beliefs, so like I just said, we never sit down and think, okay, this is what I'm going to believe in and this is what I'm going to discard. But for some reason we find ourselves going through life with those beliefs, right? And those two are things that you never sit down and you never sat down and thought about them. Guti, this is what I'm going to believe in. And those are just some of the things that just made their way into your mind. Those are things that were passed on to you as a child, and you've come to embrace them. Because for some reason, if they worked for our parents, they probably must work for us. The same way that animals in the animal kingdom teach their children certain things about hunting and survival. The children never stop to ask, why do I have to do the chasing? They know they have to do the chasing because it's the only way they're going to get food, right? So even the values and beliefs that we get from our parents and people that are around us and the community at large are things that basically have been working for them, and they do have a chance of working out for us. So that's another point that I want you to realize, that that those are just some of the things that just made their way into you. So to a certain extent, they are still open to interpretation. Just because you believe that something is wrong doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong for the next person. That's when you have to. That's why I'm saying that those values and beliefs, they are still open to interpretation. Because imagine if you were to get into a fight over something that you believe in, thinking that this thing is right, this is the right way to go about life, only to realize that somebody doesn't believe the same thing, and then you get into a fight with that person. That's basically you trying to impose your ideas on them, right? So that's why I'm saying that they are open to interpretation, and you alone can do that, because if somebody does it to you, for you, you are going to defend yourself. But it's much better if you sit down and reevaluate your own life, and then you come to your own conclusions. And part of the reason why I'm mentioning this thing about values and beliefs is because of a group of people whom I've come across. People who would usually say that I don't take shit from no one. All right. I mean, like, I like that. I do applaud them for that, and I like the fact that they do set boundaries around what they can tolerate and what they cannot tolerate, right? But what I've come to realize is that certain people, when they are still growing up, the thing that happens with them is that they find themselves in certain situations that literally render them helpless. And for them to protect themselves, they had to learn to fight back, right? So them fighting back simply means that to a certain degree and to certain situations, they had to storm at those things. The same thing that our parents do when we don't listen to them the first time. Your parent would call you, come and do this thing, you wouldn't do it. They would call you a second time and you wouldn't do it. And then the third time, that's when they come for you. And when they come for you, you know that this is final. It's either you act or you get beaten. So we also learn the same thing, that when somebody does something to you and then you have no way of protecting yourself, like maybe you feel powerless, the best way to go about it is to use force. All right. So you use force, and luckily they tend to stop when you use force. So you learn as time goes by that, okay, so for people to stop doing certain things, I have to use force, right? It's working out for you. But the problem now is that situations or experiences are linked to one another. So you could meet someone else down the road, and then they would do something that's similar to what you did back then, and then you would storm at them. But what you don't realize is that you are basically reacting to what they are doing in terms of a past experience. The sad part about this whole thing is that that person is going to feel the wrath of your own anger, but without even understanding what is it that they did wrong. But you somehow know what they did wrong, but they never know, right? Okay, yeah, you know what they did wrong, but the problem now is that you hardly ever realize the thing that led to that. So the thing that I'm trying to get to here is that, to a certain degree, as much as certain behaviors are working out for you, you still have to ask yourself, why am I behaving like this? Why do I feel the need to behave the way I behave towards certain situations? All right, that will give you the chance to go back, and keeping in mind that you are not in control of your own life. Like I said, I was just trying to humble you enough to realize that, so that you can always open your own ways of acting or of doing things into, that you can always put those ways of behaving for, open for interpretation, right? So another example that would make this thing even more clearer is people with insecurities. Let's just say you are dating a woman who literally has had problems with people undermining her beauty, right, as a young child, and then they grow up with that very same, insecurity. Or maybe they grow up around a group of women who were more beautiful than they, a group of girls who were more beautiful, than they were according to the standards of the community they live in. So for the majority of part, when those girls get complimented, they usually, get sidelined. So as you grow up, obviously, you start asking yourself, why is it that people tend to, compliment those people, but they never do the same thing to me? So, as a child, you come to your own conclusions. So that simply means that I'm not as beautiful as the other girls, right? Okay, moving on. And then you grow up, you get into a relationship with some this very particular woman. And the thing now that happens is that every time, no matter how beautiful she looks, every time you tell this person that, babe, you look beautiful, they just never believe you. And then you get confused without, you don't know why every time you tell this person that, babes, you are beautiful, they always try and always find a way to find something in them that's not so beautiful. You see, so if this person doesn't realize why they act the way they do, right, the thing that's going to happen now is that you are going to come to the realization that it's pointless for you to keep on complimenting this person, because no matter what you say, it always goes to the same thing. They will always find something that's not so beautiful about them, and that's kind of frustrating if you don't understand where this person is going through. And I don't even blame you for not understanding, because they too don't know why they act the way they do. So those insecurities are creeping into your lives, right? And when they do, you project them. You basically subject other people to those those insecurities, and this person, the person that you're dating, is going to suffer because of that, because you don't know why you act the way you do. But if you do, you'll always remember that, oh yeah, shit, the moment this person tells you that you're beautiful, you'll always remember that, oh yeah, back in the days, there's something of this nature happened, and this is why I find myself in this situation. And you are able to determine the course of action that you are going to take. Obviously, when you begin doing that, it's going to feel a little bit uncomfortable, because it's not something that you're used to. But as time goes by, at least you'll get to that point where you can take compliments without being skeptical. Or maybe this person is just telling me I'm pretty because they are feeling sorry for me, and all that stuff. So that's the thing that I'm trying to bring to your attention, that those processes are there, that are literally running your own life without you realizing them. And then at the very same time, you still have values and beliefs that you literally have no idea where they come from, but for some reason you go through life with them, right? So the 2 points that I mentioned are basically there to make you realize that after all, you're not so in control of your own life. There are certain things that literally guide what you do on a daily basis. And me saying this simply means that, like I said before, I'm just trying to help you put things on an open space for interpretation. You have to do the interpretation, not anybody else. You have to do the interpretation for yourself. And if you can do those interpretations, that simply means that to a certain degree, you'll get to a point where you stop acting in irrational ways towards certain situations in life. And that's going to solve a lot of problems for you and the people that you interact with, because they don't know you that much. They don't know what you've been through, right? So if you keep on subjecting them to those insecurities of yours, and them without knowing what is it that you did, they're going to come to a point where they give up. It's just the unfortunate reality of things. And another thing is that even when they give up, it's going to, get your sirens, making noise that, okay, so that's because I'm not beautiful enough. That's why this person is able to leave me and give up on me. That simply means that I'm not, good enough for them. So these are the things that I want us to try to avoid. That's why I'm saying that to a certain degree, sit down with yourself and look at all the things that you do on a daily basis, and just keep on asking yourself, where does this come from? Where does this come from? The good and the bad. If you understand how the good things came to be, the things that you feel like are the good things, that also gives you power to determine what is it that you are going to repeat in your life when you are basically feeling down. Because when you feel down, you have to know what takes you, what gives you that rush of energy. And if you can do that, you'll be able to get yourself out of that darkness that you tend to find yourself in. So that would be it for me, guys. I just hope you learned something from this podcast, and I'm glad you could stay with me for 14 to 15 minutes. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you'll be with me next week